The Manuscript of Survival, Part 391. January 24, 2014. You have already been through numerous occasions when you find yourself suffering from the illusion of non-progress, and we are well aware that this is a phase that is taxing for you all. When we use the word illusion, it is with intent, because you are never suffering from a lack of progress, far from it, but as your human brain is still rather limited in its capacity to register progress in any other way than the one you have gotten used to so far in your long line of human existence, it is still quite challenging at times to make you understand that what may be construed as a standstill, or even a step backwards, is in fact nothing else than a giant leap forwards. Let us explain. As we have oft talked about earlier, mankind has been held within very, very strict confines in all sorts of ways, also those that entails the use of your sensory perception. And as you know more than well already, the range of human capability compared to what you have already learned about the scope of existence, is an extremely shallow one indeed. If we should mention just one concept, the concept of sight, you know fully well that the human eye and the human brain seem capable of processing only a small fraction of the bandwidth that light is emitted in. Well, let us just add to that by saying that the scope is indeed even wider than what mankind has discovered, as your apparatus, no matter how intricately constructed by your scientists, is also lacking in ability as to discover the true scope of what is emitted as light waves. You see only what you are programmed to see, and up until now, that has been quite limited, and the same goes for all of your other sensory capabilities. And so, what you see is merely an infinitesimal small fraction of what you get, to recoin an old phrase. And so, there is no wonder that what you are able to discern from the world around you will tell you that nothing is happening at all. Not to you, nor to the rest of the known world that you are able to detect through your senses. And so, you will easily fall into despair, and your patience will come to an all-time low. Again, we are not criticizing you in any way, we are simply pointing out a few facts in order to better aid you in this process, and so, we would like to take some time to point to some facts that will go undetected by most of you. For in time, this will be something that you all will be able to tune into on a regular basis, but as we have mentioned earlier, the drag that you all experience means that a sequence of events will take some time to fully register within your system. And so, any changes that will appear, and they might be extremely profound ones at that, will take some time before they seep into your consciousness. For a human mind is nothing if not tenacious, and as such, even when it is put before some clear-cut and well-defined changes, it will still try to balk at the idea of change in itself, and so, it will continue on in the same vein for quite some time before it actually adheres to the new laws of nature. We use this concept with intent also, as you have all gotten used to a life that is in all aspects ruled by what you deem to be unchangeable laws, like a law of gravity, the concept of time, the speed of light, and so many other rules and laws that you consider to be literally as unchangeable as if written into stone. Therefore, when a shift comes that literally shifts about on these concepts, your human mind will simply discard this as impossible, and will not even take time to try to ponder the facts that it is presented with. This is simply a natural part of living as a human being, and as such, it is not something that comes as a surprise to any of us. Rather, it has been a well-defined factor from the very beginning in this process, and so, the need to keep informing you about the real changes taking place has been written into this plan from the onset. For you fail to see the majority of changes that take place, simply because your brain refuses to acknowledge them. And it does so, because it has been trained to do so. So what you all will have to do, is to make your brain unlearn some of the old tricks it has picked up. This will in many ways be like training a little used part of your body, perhaps a small muscle somewhere that you did not even know existed, and as it has been lying dormant for such a long time, it itself has gotten used to not being used at all. And so, it needs to be coaxed into becoming a vital part of your body again, and as usual, this may come at a price at first. For as you all know more than well, anything not used will simply start to wither away, and when it is being put into use again, it will moan and groan and put up quite a racket at times, just like that dormant muscle will, if you ask it to start to exercise its abilities again after a long and leisurely break. You may find these words to be a little bit flippant perhaps, but we are not saying this in order to make you feel like underachievers in any way. We are simply reminding you that you have at your disposal a set of tools that you have yet to uncover and put into use. For they are all here, ready to be taken out from that old and cobwebby box they have been kept in for eons, and as such, you do have what it takes, but it might take some time to understand what it really is you do have. For you have got what it takes to start to tap into all of the information that surrounds you, and indeed is within you, and when you do, you will start to see, to hear, to know and to understand in a very new way. For then, you will see far beyond what the human concept of seeing is, and you will start to hear things that no human ear have been able to discern, and you will learn to understand things in a very different way than what you have previously been set up to do. For then, all of those human byways of putting knowledge into your head will be overwritten, and the pathways of accessing knowledge will become much, much faster, and indeed much more accurate. For then, you need not go by the way of seeing things with your eyes, for then, letting your brain process the signals and turn them into something that your mind can perceive. And then, you need not go by the way of your ears, for your brain to pick up subtle signals being emitted from an outside source either. For then, there will be no outside source, if you will, for as you rediscover these old tools, you will also rediscover how connected you are to all there is, and as such, the subtle signals and communication permeating it all will come within your earshot. And then, you will be able to pick up the minutest changes all around, and you will be able to perceive these changes we are referring to. For then, you will see that the light coming into your atmosphere from your friendly neighbor, the sun, is no longer the same light that it used to be. For it has changed in the most remarkable way, so that the very composition of it no longer matches the old one. And it has changed in such a way, it in turn is changing everything it touches. And no, this has nothing to do with what you refer to as global warming or the depletion of your ozone layer. We are referring to the very light particles themselves, and the way that they interact with each other so that the very composition and indeed the very temperature of this light has changed. And when we say temperature, we do not refer to the way that you measure it with your thermometers, we are referring to the wavelength it comes in, that is, the part of the spectrum that it belongs to. For this has gone through a very subtle shift, but this shift will have far-reaching consequences for you all. And no, not detrimental ones, we are referring to changes that will entail the parts of your dormant DNA to be activated. For this trigger effect will largely come via those emissions you see, and indeed do not see, being beamed down upon you on a daily basis from your sun. For the particles that are penetrating not only your atmosphere, but indeed the very core of your planet, are constructed in such a way, they will indeed set every single dormant switch encoded within your DNA to on. In fact, this process has been going on for quite some time already, but lately, this process has been enhanced in such a way, it will act like a veritable chain effect and speed up this whole process exponentially. In addition, there are other factors at work here that are aiding you greatly in this process of changing from a human of the old school and into the human of the new. The limitless version of you, where your abilities to interact and indeed understand everything that is around you will be greatly enhanced. And yes, you have already come quite a long way in this process, but as yet, your old human senses are still very much in control when it comes to what kind of information you will be able to access. And as such, you will fail to perceive the new, because you are still very much being inundated with signals from the old. And so, the new will seem to be non-existent, when what is actually going on, is that all of the old is going out of existence. But, as we have told you before, not without making a whole lot of noise as it exits the door for the very last time. Therefore, know that you are already very much immersed within the new, where you are literally inundated in all sorts of exciting information, and where you are no longer left out of the loop in any way. But in order for you to be able to literally take it all in, you need to find your way through this old and noisy labyrinth by metaphorically plugging your ears, the better to be able to pick up the sights and sounds from all of the new. For as yet, you are still very much geared towards focusing on the old noise and information you are so trained to pick up, and the natural inclination for your brain will be to disregard anything that does not fall into that category. And so, picking up these first faint threads of that brand new conversation going on between you and the rest of creation, will be a difficult one, and yes, you are already very much taking part in this conversation, as indeed your physical body and those parts of your consciousness not defined by the human portion of you are already very much active members of this huge congregation of new voices. And so, from time to time, many of you will in fact pick up bits and pieces from these ongoing discussions and interactions, but as they will be of a very different caliber than the ones you are used to taking part in, they will mostly go undetected, or you will take them for being fragments of dreams or just a kind of hallucination. But trust us when we say that they are very much real. They are in fact far more real than the so-called reality you see yourself in daily. For what we are talking about is that endless stream of information in the form of vibrations, or frequencies of light, that you are already bathing in, and as such, they are a far cry indeed from that lower density, fear-based form of communication that will have you tied up in a knot on a regular basis. For what we are talking about is the conversation of such lightness, indeed, it is simply light, in all shapes and forms, and in every color and nuances of such that you can think of, and then some. This may sound just as flimsy as the world of illusion we have referred to earlier, but remember, mass is not a sign of reality, rather, it is a sign of energy manifested through consciousness. And now, you will all be asked to tune into a reality that so far is not yet manifested on your shores, and as such, this reality will seem to be an illusion. But it is not, it is no less real because you cannot see it yet. For it is there, in all of its glory, but as a human, you still need some time before you can see it with all that you are. For through your still very human eyes, all you will see so far, is the sorry state of the illusion that was created around you a long, long time ago, and still, that sight will override the truth that is already here, but still hidden from your view. So again we say, do not despair for what you fail to see, for that does not mean that it does not exist. Rather, rejoice in the fact that what you see around you is simply the last remnants of the old illusion, already starting to fade away. And remember to plug your ears and indeed eyes if necessary, lest these last remnants of the old illusion will continue to hamper you in your quest for truly seeing the new. For it takes time and dedication to overrule the signals from the old, and so, we simply ask you to cease to disbelieve what you cannot yet see, and start to believe that you are truly capable of seeing it all. And then, you will give yourself the opening you need in order to truly start to find those tools that will unlock any and all of those long-lost abilities to become the seer of all. The Constant Companions. Channeled by Asia North. asianorth.wordpress.com